Now that's music I like. Good evening and welcome back to the Bear Cave. I'm Teddy and you are listening to Night Talk. So go ahead and grab a glass of whatever you like. I have my Gatorade. I do. I'm feeling a lot better. And it's just moment by moment. I was tempted to come on this morning, but did not. I decided that try to get some last minute things accomplished today, and I did. Um, yeah, shout out to the mob. All my other bears, I call the grizzlies and the honey bears. So, what am I going to talk about tonight? I don't know. It's just um, I feel in a mood to chill. I do. I do. And, maybe to listen to some of the things that you have been saying and or just read your comments. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so the other night I mentioned this Tory Talks video. And I mentioned Tales from the Cult. That was a video that came from September, first part of September. I think it was the 6th of 2021. And I mentioned that Daniel had talked about her voice and when she used her real voice without using anything. Anything. She said she will never have a voice slip. Because I listened again tonight. And that the only time she has used her real voice without any modification, which is editing her voice, pitch, something more like that, was station head. But then she said that, I think she said that ship has long sailed. Something like that. And she was talking about that in 2021, toward the end of the year. So this is why I asked, when did she first come on her station head? And the reason why I think she might be using something to edit her voice a bit, if that makes sense. And then again, I put the other part of it. Someone who wants to conceal their identity would also include concealing their voice for fear that someone is going to recognize their real voice. That's why I have said what I've said. That there is a question for me whether or not what we are hearing is her real voice without any voice editing. Now, we can't be certain because we don't know her, correct? So, whatever she tells us, how credible is it unless we actually know for sure? We don't, especially when someone has a history of using various techniques, tools, voice changers, editing, enhancements, others. So we simply can't be certain. I'm not. I can hear her voice through the voice box that she was using when she first released that surviving Nosy Whole Life. And she used the voice box or voice changer throughout the same video and changed her voice at least 10 times to different, what would be a woman's voice or female voice and or a man's voice. She did it continuously. But the reason I know it is, well, then we didn't know, but now listening to it, because you can hear the way she pronounced words even today in those videos for each of the changes that she made. So it was one person who was creating at least the videos that I've listened to. I don't think there were multiple people that were on, let's just say, one video. I think there were multiple changes in the voice using early on the voice enhancer or voice changer. Okay. She uses, when she was using the AI voice, not the voice changer. Okay. She was using text to speech. She said that. And she said, essentially, that this is the reason she would never have a voice slip, because she uses text to speech. And all she'd have to do is write what she wants her robot to say and then put it through the AI voice. And that's easily done. Okay. I'm talking about the voice, AI voice, that she began using later in and during her broadcast. Mhm. Okay. So then for me, the question remains, based on her reaction each time that I even recently played her voice speaking the same words as, for example, Danny Nirvana. She struck that video from X, Twitter, X, or X, formerly Twitter. Why didn't she want just a few seconds of a comparison of how she said the words and how Danny Nirvana said the same exact phrase? Mhm. Why would she strike that? If that's her voice, and that's the voice that we hear when people listen, I don't listen often. I don't listen to her videos that often. I don't. And she says she uses her voice every day. Why would she be trying to hide her voice? Remember, she said that in one of her videos when I was playing the comparison to Daniel Elizabeth Allen. She stated something to the effect, well, why wouldn't I choose a longer portion of any of her videos? And she said that I was chopping things up. And now, and for some time, for a long time, she doesn't want a side by side of her voice compared to someone else's voice. If she sounds so distinctively different, then what would it matter? What would it matter? And I'm just talking about saying a phrase, not saying something that is harassing myself or anyone, just a phrase for comparison. Because she said I use my voice all the time. So then what is she concerned about? Why is she concerned about people hearing something like that? All right. I'm not talking about receipts of her saying some of the most egregious things. I'm simply talking about a comparison. Because if I know I'm not that individual, I'm using my voice now. I'm not using some enhancer to my voice. Nothing. Why would I be concerned if someone played my voice and compared it to someone else? I'd want to hear it. And I know I would sound like this all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's why I question the one, the station head, the two, she said she'd never have a voice left. And when she finally came on, not on camera live, but her voice, she said, using her voice. The sound of her voice, when I listened to that, it's her. However, there was a slight variation, and I attributed that in my mind. I said, okay, so this is the first time she's coming on with her voice. She's angry at John Yates and she's going at it. She's most likely, because she's never, if this is the first time on this platform that people have heard her voice, she's also, I'll just say, anxious or nervous about going live with her voice because before she hadn't done that. So the adrenaline is flowing. I mean, full force. You can hear it. Hmm. But she does sound slightly different. Mhm. So that's where the saying, the shaky voice, is what I'm uh, attributed to. Don't know, but that's what I think might also be going on, if that makes sense. Okay. Code switching. She said she's code switches. Okay. When I think of code switching, I think of not necessarily the tone, but the words also that are chosen and how they are used. All right. That's what I think about code switching. A certain, language that's more familiar and less, let's say, less local, not and less slang or more professional. The way she has used it, because she has said that when she's made those phone calls. And when she has even changed. I don't really hear that, the lisp that is very recognizable in the voice that we hear every day. Mhm. And the pronunciation of words every day sounds totally different. Mhm. And I said, I don't think she's using any type of voice enhancer when she's doing the code switching. Can I be certain? No. Hang on. What do you think? What do you think? because she goes into it's a really her everyday whatever this voice is, it's a sharp, higher pitched, um, almost sometimes distress sound, unusual. You don't hear someone sound like that all the time. Is it unique? So she could be using something to even modify her voice that is not a voice box, but some form of editing or like of her voice. Mhm. I think it's you just never know what a person could be doing. And again, my rationale for that is this is an anonymous person. Why would they take all of these precautions, all these layers, do all of this, and then come on YouTube with their real voice? Because they would want to button up everything. Everything. Again, can't be sure. But it's just another way of thinking about this and thinking outside of the box, that something that should be so just obvious that she would even make sure of that. Mhm. Yeah. I don't put anything past her. When she made her first video, at the end of the video, there's a like the credits. Right. All right. Like a movie. And I remember I did that. I did that before she came on, before she came to this um, platform. It was in black and white. I've always used black and white. So if anyone sees, by the way, and I can do it anytime I want to, because I have videos that I created in 2020, 2021, where I use nothing but black and white. And at the end, I had credit rolling. When I did that, when um, I did that Sean Davy way, when Shandavas attacks, mhm, and I did credits. Mhm. I hadn't seen anyone do that. Mm-mm. But when the credit comes up, she blurs out the name, but not before I can see the name, not Danielle, like a woman spells it, but Daniel. It says Daniel Robertson. Daniel. Yes. Not two L's, not Daniela, not that. I've shown that before. It's Daniel Robertson. Why would she need to put that name? Daniel Robertson. And this is why the notion of whether or not, again, do we really know? Do we really know for sure that there isn't so much manipulation going on? So much of a disguise. Remember what Black Rabbit said? Mhm. We will never find out who Danny is. Do you remember that video that she's put on private? And I have all those videos. She said, we will never figure out who Danny Robertson is. And immediately I said, how would she know that if she doesn't know who she is? She said it with so much certainty. How would she know that when she says she doesn't know who Danny is? So then how could she say that? If she didn't know how she or he or whomever is the true identity and or not. Does that make sense? How could I say that if I didn't know something about an individual distinctively that would make me think that you will never find out who they are? Why would I say that about another person? I could say it about myself. If I know the things that have been put into place to conceal that. But how would Rabbit know? She was so convincing. I mean, you should hear how she said it. No one is ever going to find out who Danny Robertson is. Inside of that, and I'm again thinking also outside of the box, is this some technology manipulating so that it is so well thought out that we think it's a certain person, but we're not even close? I really think that Black Rabbit is, of course, she's not going to tell us what she knows. I don't believe her. When she said, because either I'd have to take her for her word, or I don't believe her. because she cannot say that. She cannot convince me by saying no one. I mean, she was very affirmative about it. No one is ever going to figure out who Danny Robertson is. Like it's impossible. Like it would be something that is not, that is, I know this would be out of the box, but it's just voice changers. It's not even, we just wouldn't believe it. Who is doing this? Now, when Crazy Lucian first told me who she thought Danny Robertson could be, again, this could be all a setup, right? Now that we know, she showed me a picture. It was a man, and his name was Daniel Robertson. Okay. She never mentioned that this Daniel Robertson, the name that I clearly could see on her credits of her beginning video. She never mentioned that. But I have seen Danny Robertson use the name Daniel Robertson. Mhm. But then she put she, as the credits were coming up, a blur came over the name, but not fast enough to be able to see the name, see how it's formed. Yeah, it was Daniel. Mhm. But Crazy Lucian showed a person in California, a Daniel Robertson, who worked for a company that was artificial intelligence. Mhm. Now everybody can, just that I've told you that, you might go and scramble. Go, scramble. See if you can find one. You might. Mhm. And she gave me kind of her rationale for thinking why it would be this. And he was a Caucasian man in California who is familiar with artificial intelligence, because that's the company, not the company name, but that's what the company does. Okay. Now, there's no proof of it. It was something that she showed me. That was before she would turn. Let's just say that my channel had been struck, but that was, let me see. I'd have to go. I'd have to go to my Instagram. but I believe it was after. Mhm. Yeah. The premise, AI, that part makes sense because there's more to just, um, using a voice changer to get at a level where either you're creating voices, mhm, or taking someone's voice and cloning. That's the word. And cloning. So it takes someone who is sophisticated enough that knows how to write or knows, familiar with it or knows someone who can do that or has access to that. Mhm. Again, it's thinking outside of the box and thinking that a person who is anonymous and really they want to remain anonymous is going to take all kinds of steps, thinking all of this through well in advance so that they don't slip up. Mhm. But nothing is ever foolproof either. And by the way, this is no conspiracy theory. I'm just talking about an idea, the technology, and what we know now. Even we didn't know, let's say, a few years ago. We didn't. We didn't talk about AI as much. People, just in the mainstream every day, not even with people being familiar with like the chat boxes, GPT, or others, mhm, that are, out in the market. Unless, again, that she has made sure to strike any of the videos that I have of her voice on Station Head. You see, it's that Station Head videos that I have. I have her Station Head videos. Hmm. And she does not want those to be heard for more than one reason, for sure. What is she afraid of? It couldn't possibly be the content. What is she afraid of? Because we hear her say things that are egregious all the time. What is she afraid of? Someone recognizing the voice? So if she's afraid of that, then that's her real voice. Baby Juju says couldn't possibly be the content. No. She's not afraid of that content. Why? Why would she? She has said things n- she's not ashamed of anything. She has no filter. None. Unfiltered. So what is she afraid of? If she's that concealed, if she's that certain of herself, if she's that confident that she will never be found ever, what is she afraid of? Remember, she said, "Oh, I'm playing the videos on YouTube to make, for views or money." It's not for views for her. It's always about, she always says clicks and coins. I don't use that phrase. I'm using it because this is what she's concerned with, a content creator making money. It's always about money with her, too, by the way. Always. She's always counting other people's money, even though she says she doesn't. She does it all the time. So, what is she afraid of? It's on X. I don't get paid for those videos, not one penny. So, I can't be doing it for money, correct? I'm not monetized on X or Instagram. So she can't say that I'm using the videos that I have modified with commentary or editing with clips for money. No, it's to expose her, the real her that people haven't heard. Because she said it's the station head videos that she used her voice without any modification. So you have to listen very closely to what she says. What is she afraid of? Ask yourself, what is she afraid of? Again, if she is that confident that she has that many layers, that she will never be found, why would it bother her for someone to hear anything, any comparison, why wouldn't she just laugh it off? Why would she want to conceal the truth? Why wouldn't she want people to hear the voice and judge for themselves? Hear her thought process and listen to her when she does go in a rage. Why wouldn't she want someone to know that? If no one knows who she is, who cares? Again, if she's that cocky, that confident, that I'm so far away from knowing who she is, she has said, we haven't even come close to finding out who she is. Then why does she react so strongly to any of these things? Side note, remember when I showed this, again, I'll mention that young lady in the blue jumpsuit there in Louisiana. Mhm. I didn't even show her face. I just showed the blue jumpsuit initially. Just the very next day, she made a false, fraudulent police report and sent someone to not my home, but a family member's home. The very next day, there's something about that girl in the blue jumpsuit. Because I hadn't shown her face. Why would she react so strongly? This is why I have not been able to put aside that there is a link to Danielle as a possibility. I haven't ruled it out. Uh-uh. Because that person should not have affected her that much if it wasn't personal. Because one thing I've learned about Danielle, she can't help herself. She can't. She can't control her. She can't control her behavior or reaction. If it's something that means something to her, she can't. She couldn't contain herself. She had to strike out. And I hadn't even shown this girl's picture, but she must have recognized it. Just like Daniel Elizabeth. It was the same thing. No face, but the blue jumpsuit. It must have been because she was familiar with this person. That individual, that now it's out there, is a very close friend of Daniel Elizabeth. That would make sense in the way she was reacting. Or it shouldn't have affected her at all. That's why I say can't rule Danielle out or that family, because it's someone close. There is a connection. She scrubbed herself from being on Faith Allen's social media. That was after we found out. Why would she have to do that? That's a reaction quickly. She forgot to get rid of that evidence as a link when she was, trying to scrum. That's why she can quickly put her hands on Danielle Elizabeth's Instagram handles. How else would she be able to do that? She brought those Instagram pages to YouTube. She did. I didn't do that. She did. Why did she say she had to protect Daniel Elizabeth? Why? If Daniel Elizabeth didn't mean that much, why did she say, I have to protect her? She used that word protect her for someone else. Who is she? It should be so easy to debunk this. It should be so easy, but it isn't. And I stress, no one would like nothing more than to rule her out. No, I would love to rule her out. But there is something there. Where there is smoke, there is fire. Where there is smoke, there is fire. Someone mentioned that interview of Courtney Morrison's her nephew. What did he have to gain? by listening. When he heard the voice, when Hollywood Next played the voice of Danielle on this platform, he said, "That's Danielle." He didn't know about Danielle on YouTube. His reaction before he even finished listening, he said, "That's Danielle." And then his mother listened. His mother listened to the voice of Danielle on the YouTube, said, "That's Danielle." Like Danielle Allen? Yes, Danielle Allen. They're in Lake Charles. Both of them said that's her. Others who have listened outside of YouTube mhm, says that's her. That's her voice. So then why does she strike just the voice comparison between Daniel Elizabeth and her voice? If it's not her, if she says I don't sound anything like her, all right, then let the people hear it. The side by side. What is she afraid of? You've got to ask yourself the question, what is she afraid of? She said she's anonymous. No one has come close. It's impossible to find her. There's layers. We'll never find her. Hang on. Oh, big sneeze. Why? I don't see her reacting that strongly to anyone else. Do you? Give me a second. Get some tissue. Okay. all those videos with all those clues, with the breakdown, and I systematically laid it out why I thought that it's all the coincidences pointed more toward Daniel Elizabeth than away from her. So it wasn't just one or two things, it was a combination over a period of time that it kept supporting the theory. Although I said time and time again, I cannot be certain. But she wanted to conceal that. She wanted all of that down. Why? If I'm such a bird brain, an Inspector Gadget, as she liked to call Tails, or is it possible that someone else could hear it and maybe they could think outside of the box, listen to some of the clues, and it would cause them to say, In the same way that, all right, so I listened, to King World and, this bicycle, and I've still, since she wasn't high on my list, although there's a possibility, everything exists, right? When you don't know for sure. But I said we need to find actual concrete links, so it makes sense. Pamela says, peeling that rotten onion. Yes. It's layers. But a lot of people have said things that maybe they don't think are significant. They seem insignificant until you lay them out. Yes, Pam, it all goes back to Monique Tober. It does. For Danielle. That's why I still bring it up from time to time. Because I am not convinced. I am not convinced that she, Monique Tober, was totally clueless to anything. I'm just not convinced. No. Mm-mm. No. Too many coincidences. Too many people working with Miss Tober. No. Sorry. Mm-mm. Especially when you have someone like Black Rabbit who's been around trolling, getting information on with all about the tea, knowing how she moves now. Not knowing then, but knowing now. Everybody has a pattern. Mm-hmm. Yep. What was her motivation? I always go back to motivation. Joanne says, especially when So Deb and Nosy Whole Life caught her lying. Miss Tolbert. In more than one, we'll say allegedly, she had a YouTube channel. She said she didn't know how to get on YouTube. She was about to say, when asked, how did she know about this? Her cousin. Because she does what? All. And then she caught herself. Oh, because she knows how to get on here, I guess. Miss Tolbert, I showed a receipt that came from, I believe it was 2015, long before she came on the channel. That when asked questions, that allegedly, but the document has been filed, that she misrepresented. That's what this, withheld information. That says a lot. Remember when, again, the first surviving Nosy Whole Life, Danielle said, Nosy Whole Life, you're a criminal. She even put up a big definition of what a criminal is. Yeah. Kept calling it criminal. If Nosy Whole Life would have known who she was speaking with, her and So Deb, what she was alleged, I'll just let you just read between the lines, people. Why didn't Danielle say criminal? And do you know what she came up with Nosy Whole Life doing? Misdemeanor, not felonies. Oh. She didn't find Nosy Whole Life in a jumpsuit, did she? But I imagine there are other people in jumpsuits. So that makes it even more telling. Like, oh, what are we dealing with here? Why are we to believe her? That's why I made that video. Why? Why should we believe you, Miss Tober? We want to believe you, but why? That calls into question. Yeah. That maybe there is something that she didn't want Nosy Whole Life to know or admit to. In the same way that Black Rabbit, right away, overnight, got an interview with Miss Tobert. Why? I'm going to say my opinion is to clean up anything that could have been taken from Nosy Whole Lives interview that just didn't land right. It didn't ring right. There were too many questions. So that's why Black Rabbit had to formulate some of her own and have Miss Tolbert come back and restate things, or she asked her, like the lawyer she wanted to be. A series of questions like cross-examination. That's her approach. That's the way she approached Marcella. That's the way she approaches when she asks. When you see her drill people, that methodology was taught to her. However, when someone turns the table and can do the same thing or ask her questions, no. Never said she wasn't smart. She's smart enough to know, yes, Pam, damage control. Because she would have had to suggest certain things to Miss Tolbert that she was going to ask her. This was a pre-recorded interview with Miss Tolbert. A well-scripted one, though I haven't heard all of the video. I did hear at least a couple of questions. And hear a portion, maybe less than 5 minutes. She needed to do that to clean up what Miss Tolbert said. And when I say clean it up, yes, Pam, damage control. To stop any speculation, to stop any narrative, to stop people from saying and or questioning the validity of what she was saying when asked spontaneous questions, because the way she answered and the way a couple of things went down, it left questions in people's mind. I didn't even watch that one when it was live. So if it starts there, as Pam said, if it starts with Miss Tolbert, because you've got to build the foundation. If it's shaky, and all the cleanup and all the apologies and all this and all of that, all the noise level was louder around Miss Tolbert, not the other families. Can we name the 17 families? Because if we could, somewhere inside, we should find who Danielle is protecting. This is important, because that's what I'm trying to get at without going too deep into all of what I think it is not. The obvious. Where do you start at the low-hanging fruit? Because the others, she didn't put any emphasis on at all. So that's why. Wow. It is midnight. It is past midnight. It is 12:09. I didn't think. I said I don't know what I'm going to talk about, and then started talking. Yes. And we can keep going. I know, though it's Easter. It is. It's Easter Sunday, and some of you, including myself, are going to be doing things today. We could say tomorrow, but today. hmm So I don't want to keep you up, too much longer, but we need to just kind of finish up what we're saying. Okay? So let me go ahead. I'll just read some of your comments and we'll wrap it up. You can email me at unwinewithteddy@gmail.com. Whether or not I had mentioned that I might play, some gospel music, but I can't make any promises just yet. All right? Yeah. But I appreciate all of you who stopped by and yeah. Oh, happy Easter. Someone just reached out on email. Happy Easter to you too. Let's see. You know what? I've got a couple of emails to read. So give me just a second and I'll be right back. I like that one. Again, thank you for sending emails, but now it's time to say good night. Yeah. So, whether or not I will be on first thing in the morning, we'll have to see. Keep your bear phones on. And if I don't see you first thing in the morning, or it will be sometime tomorrow. So I hope you have a safe Easter with your family. I will try to make it on, even if it's for half an hour. I'll try, okay? But that's all for me. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Teddy. Good night.